Start. All right, good evening. Welcome to the Tuesday, March 22, 2022 Urbandale City Council meeting. I will call the meeting to order and ask the clerk to take roll call, please.
Blake,
Here.
Harbury Montgomery,
Here.
Kroll,
Here.
McBurney,
Here.
Oprah.
Here.
Thank you.
Thank you. If you can please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance as you're able. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Urbandale is a national leader in character counts, endeavoring at all times to promote and model the principles of trustworthiness, respect, responsibility, fairness, caring, and citizenship. In conducting tonight's meeting, we expect that all participants will act in a respectful manner consistent with these principles. Item 2 is to approve the agenda. I'll ask for a motion in a second.
So moved.
Motion by Kroll.
Second.
Second by Obrecht. Discussion, please vote. I think it passed. All right, we did approve the agenda. That's good. All right, item 3 is presentations. We do have a very special presentation. That's the administration of the oath of office to 2 of our newer police officers, and introduce the new officers. I'm going to recognize Sergeant Taylor.
Mayor, council members, I'd like to introduce to you Officers Carla Duckworth and Carly Schaefer. Officer Duckworth was a graduate of Indianola High School. He also attended DMAC and Grandview University. Officer Duckworth was retired, last mentioned, prior to joining the Urbandale Police Department in August of last year. Officer Duckworth was in the 300th Basic Academy class at the Iowa Law Enforcement Academy, graduating in December of last year. Officer Duckworth is currently working second watch with her field training officer. Officer Carly Schaefer is a graduate of Burlington Community High School. Officer Schaefer attended Southeastern Community College, graduating in 2018. Officer Schaefer joined the Iowa Army National Guard and remains active to this day. Officer Schaefer worked for the 5th Judicial District before joining the Urbandale Police Department in August of last year. Officer Schaefer was also part of the 300th Basic Academy class, graduating in December of last year. Officer Schaefer is currently working second watch in her field training as well. Officers Duckworth and Schaefer.
Of the City of Urbandale, Iowa. Do solemnly swear. That I will support the Constitution of the United States. And the Constitution of the State of Iowa. That I will faithfully and impartially. To the best of my ability. Discharge all the duties. Of the office of police officer. Of the City of Urbandale, Iowa. As now and hereafter required by law.
I do.
For the City of Urbandale, Iowa. Do solemnly swear. That I will support the Constitution of the United States. And the Constitution of the State of Iowa. That I will faithfully and impartially. To the best of my ability. Discharge all the duties. Of the office of police officer. Of the City of Urbandale, Iowa. As now and hereafter required by law. All right, after that very special event, thank you for everybody. And we'll now turn to Citizens Forum. This is the opportunity to address the council on something not a part of tonight's agenda. Does anyone care to address the council at this time? Okay, seeing none, we'll move to the adoption of the minutes.
So moved.
Motion by Kroll. Second by Blake. Discussion, please vote. Okay, that passes. Item 6 is the consent agenda. We have 11 items for approval.
Move approval of consent agenda?
Motion by Obrecht.
Second.
Second by, sorry. I'm sorry. Second by McBurney, discussion, please vote. Every once in a while it happens, I'm sorry, just draw a blank. Sorry, Larry. The guy in the end, yeah, second by the guy in the end. All right, that passes, thank you. Item 7, public hearings versus item 7.1, a public hearing to consider the bids for the 170th Street paving project from Meredith Drive to Waterford Road. The public notice was published in the March 4, 2022 Des Moines Register, and ask any objections to that notice is published.
There were none.
That's for a motion to open the public hearing.
So moved.
Motion by Carberry Montgomery. Second by Blake. Discussion, please vote. All right, that passes. And introducing this is our Director of Engineering and Public Works, John Larson. John?
Really, we were just recommending to continue the public hearing,
Okay,
discuss it further in 2 weeks.
all right. With that, is there a motion to continue the public hearing?
No motion to continue the public hearing.
Motion by McBurney,
Second.
second by Kroll. Discussion, please vote.
Are you going to come back to us with some fantastic options?
I wouldn't count on that.
That's why we're continuing it tonight, right?
This is the only project. Only project. No.
All right, moving on then, item 7.2 is a public hearing and a consideration of bids for the Walnut Creek Regional Park pedestrian loop trail. The public notice for this was also published in the March 4, 2022 Des Moines Register. If there's a motion, or ask any objections to that notice is published.
There were none.
That's for a motion to open that public hearing.
So moved.
Motion by Kroll. Second by Blake. Discussion, please vote. That passes. All right, John?
Good evening, Mayor, members of the council. This is our bid tabulation for our pedestrian loop trail located within the Walnut Creek Regional Park. Last Wednesday, March 16th, we did receive 6 bids on this project. We are recommending the low bid from Concrete Connection in the amount of $162,000. Their bid is approximately $60,000 or 27% less than our engineer's estimate. Our trail will be 8 feet wide and 5-inch thick concrete, and it'll be approximately a half mile in length. We're anticipating the work being done by September 23rd of this year. So just to kind of show you where it's at in the park, this is Aurora Avenue. It goes through the park. Here's the parking lot, and then it's not in the aerial yet, but this is where we just constructed the new shelter. So we're just on the west side of the creek in purple here, just showing a loop trail. With that, I'd be glad to answer any questions.
Okay. Thanks, John. Any questions for John? All right, we are in public hearing for this item. Would anyone like to address the council on this item? All right, seeing none, I'll ask for a motion and a second to close the public hearing.
So moved.
Motion by Carberry Montgomery, second by Blake. Discussion, please vote. All right, that passes. We have 3 items for consideration.
Motion to approve resolution 092-2022.
Motion by McBurney, second by Obrecht. Discussion, please vote. That passes.
And motion to approve resolution 093-2022.
Motion by McBurney,
Second.
second by Obrecht. Discussion, please vote. passes.
And motion to approve resolution 094-2022.
Motion by McBurney,
Second.
second by Obrecht. Discussion, please vote. That passes. All right, thank you. Moving on to item 7.3 is a public hearing to consider the storm sewer and surface water flow easement vacation for Lot 1, Walnut Terrace Plat 1. The public notice for this was also in the March 4, 2022 Des Moines Register, and I said there are objections to that. Notice is published.
There were none.
Ask for a motion and a second to open the public hearing.
So moved.
Motion by Kroll, second by Blake. Discussion, please vote. Okay, that passes. And to introduce this is our Community Development Director, Steve Franklin. Steve.
Thank you, Mayor. Good evening, all. This is a request to vacate a portion of a surface water flowage easement on 15603 Winston. So this is the parcel here. When the parcel was originally recorded, this back rectangle 20 feet south of the rear property line was all a storm sewer and surface water flowage easement. The previous owner, it's been sold. There's someone different that owns it now, but the previous owner built a basketball court, a fire pit, a number of improvements in the easements. The city became aware of that, visited with that property owner, had all of the improvements along 156th Street removed. What was left was a fire pit and a portion of a basketball court that was there. Some of the basketball court has been removed such that it is no longer in the easement. So the best way to clean this up is to vacate this portion of the easement that's hatched here, which is 10 feet wide by 87 feet long. So what that means is that what remains within this original rectangle, so it would be this 10 feet here along the rear property line, and then it opens back up to be the whole 20 feet here. This is an existing storm intake where the water goes. And I've got a drawing I can show you here that shows some of the information that we provided. So during our investigation to figure out exactly what's going on here, we did require a survey from an engineer to give us shots along an existing fence line, which sits just inside the property line. And you can see based on these elevations, 173.7, 173 here, 172.4, it does all run into this intake where it's all supposed to go. Kind of flat, but it does get there. The other thing that's good about this particular situation is that the only water that's coming to this intake is the water that's flowing off the neighbor adjacent to the north and just a portion of the lot immediately adjacent to the west. So we only got about a lot and a half worth of water that's coming to this intake, so it's not a lot of water. So the recommendation is to vacate that portion of the easement. You all saw the statement from the neighbor immediately adjacent to the north. I assume you saw his concerns. I don't even really know if they're concerns. John and I met with him on Friday. I don't believe he really thinks that there's a problem. He just kind of wanted some assurances that it wouldn't become a problem. And so John and I explained what I've just explained to you. We don't have any reason to believe that it will be a problem. The other thing that I would mention to you that's important is I have spoken to this property owner who now owns the property. They were not told anything about the previous issues, obviously, not a surprise. They should have been, but they weren't. But the main thing to mention to you is that they understand that there is still 10 feet left of a surface water flowage easement through here, and that they need to not do anything to impede the flow of that water across their lot to get into this intake, number one. And number two, make sure that this intake is always clear. So they understand the situation. The neighbor to the north indicated that he's got a good relationship with the people that now own this property. She confirmed that to me yesterday when we talked. So should there be a problem in the future, it sounds like the two of them can work together to make any ponding or anything like that go away. So with all of that, I'd be happy to answer any questions.
All right. Thank you, Steve. Any questions for Steve on it?
Steve, what triggered the owner of 15603 to do this, or did we trigger it?
We actually got a call from the neighbor to the north saying, hey, I think this guy's built a bunch of stuff out there that he wasn't supposed to build.
Yeah.
And so we went out there and inspected it, and yeah, that's true. So.
But that was before, the previous owner.
Correct.
So why are we just saying this now then with the new owner?
Well, I mean, we were dealing with it when the previous owner still owned it. Yeah. So all of this action is taken care of. The property didn't change hands until what did she say? I think it was late last summer when they
Yeah.
actually purchased the property. So this is really kind of a cleanup on our part to finally get all this done. It took quite a while. Most of the dealings with the previous owner were honestly in, what was it, 2020 probably? It's been a while ago. And we were giving him some leeway because obviously he was very surprised and upset that he built all this stuff. And so we gave him some time to get it all out of there. At the end of the day, we feel like this is a viable solution.
Okay.
So Steve, when I talked to Marv about this, because I didn't fully understand what the email was either, so I went ahead and called him. He said that the biggest concern that he has is where that fence line is at, the water pools up when it's heavy rain.
Right. Yeah, what bothers him the most is when the original 20-foot easement was here, I suspect that there was probably more of a swale, that ran through the middle of the easement and got to the intake. When the basketball court got built, now because this is being vacated, so the edge of the basketball court basically comes right to the edge of this 10 feet of the easement that we're keeping, that now slopes down from the edge of the court down to the fence. So instead of being a swale, so the flow line may have shifted a little bit to where it basically runs along the fence now. But the way we look at it, again, it's very little water and it is still flowing within the easement like it's supposed to do, so.
And if there does happen to be something in the future that happens where Marv at 15602 has problems with it, is there any recourse that,
When I talked to the current property owner, she asked, hey, if this becomes a problem for some reason, or do we need to fix it? And I said, well, technically, yes, because it's flowing across your property. You didn't know about what the previous owner did, but the situation is on your property. Worst case scenario is there's some ponding that's happening, because that's the only thing Marv mentioned to us too that he's having problems with. They can probably just investigate doing some very minor grading in there and get it where it needs to go. If for some reason it becomes really bad, you could always go to a drainage tile situation, but I just don't think there's enough water to make that ever be a concern. That's my thought. Okay.
so yeah, I just want to make sure, because I know that was one of the things that he called out within his email was just make sure that.
Yeah, it was just the ponding, and when we were talking to him Friday, he mentioned that when he noticed that was happening last year, it's after we had a couple of big rains. So we told him, if we've had some rains and the ground's already wet a little bit, it may sit there for a day or two before it soaks in, but we encouraged him to monitor the situation. Again, the current property owners know about the situation. If it's a problem in the future, we don't think it will be. We'll work with them to figure it out.
Okay. Thanks, Steve.
But the bottom line is the grades now show it's working, and
Correct.
the owner of 15603 can't change those grades to
Right. Yep, the grades that we have
impede the
now.
flow.
Correct. Yep, we show that the water is running through this 10 feet that we're keeping to this existing intake, and they know that they can't do anything to make that not be the case.
All right, we are in public hearing on this item. Would anyone like to address the council on this item? Okay, seeing none, I'll ask for a motion to close the public hearing.
So moved.
Motion by Kroll, second by McBurney. Discussion, please vote. Passes. And there are two items for consideration.
Motion to approve resolution 098-2022.
Motion by McBurney. Second by Blake. Discussion, please vote. That passes.
And motion to approve the first reading of ordinance 2022-05.
Motion by McBurney. Second by Blake. Discussion, please vote. Okay, that passes. Moving on to item 8, planning and zoning items. First is 8.1, the Acadia Plat 3 final plat at 164th Street and Meredith Drive. Steve?
Okay, this is the next phase of the Acadia development north of Meredith Drive at about 164th Street. This little drawing here at the bottom is the overall thing, and then it's split up into several sheets, but Meredith is right here at the bottom of the sheet. Come off 164th Street, hit Centennial Boulevard for the next section. Then there's an east-west street and another cul-de-sac. What is left will be Plat 4 in the future, which will finish out the Acadia development. So just to give you a little bit better look at this, this is Meredith here at the bottom of the sheet, 164th Street where you come in, goes up and hits Centennial Boulevard. There are more lots then as you continue along Centennial Boulevard up to the east-west street, which is Sharon Drive. And then there is a cul-de-sac that comes off of that. Oops, sorry, went the wrong direction. Cul-de-sac comes off of Sharon Drive there. Total of 47 single-family residential lots. There are 2 outlots for stormwater detention, and then another outlot, which is the park that is part of this development. These are some of the larger lots. We've seen the higher density, smaller lots coming through. These are lots that are between 75 and 100 feet wide, so still satisfying the desire for people that want those bigger lots. Be happy to answer any questions. P&Z recommends approval, subject to the items noted.
All right, thank you, Steve. Questions for Steve on this?
Steve, how are we coming along on connecting the subdivisions that you access off of 156th and Acadia? Is that ever going to happen?
It will when they eventually develop in the first phase of Acadia, and I can't remember now if there's one in phase 2 or not, but I know in phase 1 there is. Yeah, there is in phase 1 and in phase 2, there is a connection to go to those properties over to the east should they ever develop, yes.
Because I'm always convinced that I can do it, and then I'm proven wrong
Right.
very quickly.
Yeah, we're that one.
And then I forget.
Right. Yeah, we're that one last property shy. There's a couple properties there just north of the corner from 156th and Meredith. Should they ever to develop, then, we'll have connections in there. But we did plan for it. There is a stub in Acadia that will eventually get you all the way through and out. Did that answer your question?
I think so.
If not, let me know. I can send you a map and.
No,
so
I
it all
just,
comes together.
I want to see more connection, between, the Waterford something landing maybe, and, Acadia.
I can assure you that's something that we look at. We've had quite a few rezonings and preliminary plats coming through lately, and one of the main conversations we have with developers is getting that connectivity to get through these neighborhoods, so
Yeah.
eventually it will happen.
All right, any further? Not? That's for motion.
Motion to approve resolution 097-2022.
Motion by Kroll,
Second.
second by Obrecht. Discussion, please vote. All right, that passes. Item 8.2 is the Urbandale Marketplace 3 Plat 4 preliminary plat in Northwest Urbandale Drive and Meredith Drive. Steve?
I'm going to show you this item and 8.3 kind of back to back here because they're directly related to each other. This Urbandale Marketplace 3 Plat 4 creates a parcel on which item 8.3, which is the Premier Credit Union, is going to be constructed. So I'll just show you both right now, and then you can take the separate votes. So this is the corner of Northwest Urbandale Drive and Meredith Drive. This is the existing most popular cut through in Urbandale right now, I believe. I take it all the time. And that's been there for some time, goes through there. And so what this plat does is takes everything to the east of that drive, between that and Northwest Urbandale Drive and Meredith, creates one big outlot for future development, and then creates this one buildable lot, which is 1.42 acres, right at the corner of that access drive and Meredith Drive. So the car washes are immediately sitting right here on the south side. This will create the lot right here on the corner. And so what will get constructed on that lot is the Premier Credit Union. Here is that parcel. Here's the drive. Here's Meredith Drive. This is the building kind of here in the middle. They've got a canopy on the north side for their drive-through traffic, parking spaces to the west and to the south of the building. It's a one-story building that is about 3,600 square feet. There are 18 parking spaces that would be required based on code requirements, and they're showing 25 spaces. So pretty good design. There's a sidewalk you would pull in, have plenty of stacking here. So we had them do the access drive on the north side of the lot so you can get the stacking to get onto Meredith. So you would pull into the parcel here, again, the parking spaces, and then you can come around the building for the drive-through lanes. And then in terms of what that building will look like, here are the elevations. This is all brick, these vertical elements, so it does meet the PUD requirements for a predominantly brick building. So Planning and Zoning Commission does recommend approval of both of those items. Would be happy to answer any questions.
So the storage facility plan and everything went away?
Yeah, that was the 3-acre parcel that was kind of in the middle.
Yeah.
And we have asked the question, and as best, it was this lot right here, as best we can determine, that's gone and it's not coming back.
Okay.
You mentioned this is a great cut through pedestrian-wise, to go from this lot north, sidewalk-wise, I'm guessing that's whenever Outlot Z gets developed?
Correct.
Can't
Yep.
require anything at this point?
Yep, we had them put the sidewalk in here, a little darker shading you can see there, and whenever something happens to the north, we'll get it connected all the way up through there.
And I know this is, I think they talked about this in the Planning and Zoning Commission meeting, but just want to reiterate, I know that there were some concerns from the folks in townhomes to the east of here.
Yep.
I just want to make sure that that's noted again, that, you know,
This, and actually, I think I should have it here. If you didn't notice in the drawings, their detention basin, they are providing on-site. It's just to the north of the building.
Yep.
So there's their detention right there, and it's actually going to function as a rain garden.
oh, nice.
I thought I had, there we go. So there's the landscaping plan. So this is all their detention. You can see they're really heavily planting it in there because they want to have it serve as a rain garden. By the time this gets detained and goes back into the system, gonna.
Probably not going to see very much flow over there. Okay. Good.
All right. All right, well, first on the agenda is the preliminary plat.
I'll move approval of council letter 7020.
Motion by Carberry Montgomery,
I'll second it.
second by McBurney. Discussion, please vote. That passes. And then item 8.3 is the site plan for the credit union.
Move approval of council letter 7021.
Okay, motion by McBurney,
Second.
second by Obrecht. Discussion, please vote. Second by the guy on the other end.
The bookends got it.
All right, that item passes. Item 8.4 is the Urban Dog Park and Parking Lot Site Plan at 4905 68th Street. Steve?
I would technically argue Jean should be up here with her pom-poms presenting this to you, but I will do it real quick. I mean, she can answer questions, but this is the site plan for a long-awaited dog park, an extension of the existing street. You see the driveway coming through here to the parking lot, which has 22 parking spaces. There is a fence and gate system to be able to use the dog park. So this is the gate mechanism here, and then you can see the fencing that separates a smaller area for small dogs and the larger area for large dogs with the fencing. 6 acres in size total. Planning and Zoning Commission recommends approval, subject to items noted. Be happy to answer questions, although Jan's probably the preferred person to answer questions.
Steve, can you show me, where are the streetlights on this drawing? I could not find them to save my life.
Wow.
Planning to add one at the end of the cul-de-sac.
Oh, okay.
Number
Did you hear
5.
that? Jan says they're gonna add one at the end of the cul-de-sac. And then,
There'll be 3
is there,
along
do you
here
know? Okay, 3 of them along there? See if we can,
at the end.
Yeah, they're there.
Did you see 'em?
you surprised me with that one, Amy.
Sorry, I should have warned
I'm
you.
looking for them, but I'm not seeing anything obvious that's calling them out. Well,
I
let's see.
couldn't find
Here's
them
the-
either.
This is the
And I
photometric
I
plan.
can
pulled
go
up
back a
younger
few.
eyes. And I-
Oh, it takes
Younger
glasses.
guys in my house couldn't find them either.
Thanks,
There's,
like,
there's what the fixture looks like. Yeah, Jan,
Oh.
do you know approximately where they are that you can show them?
there, go back to that one. Speaking there was a.
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, members of the council, the design plan is to include one at the end of the cul-de-sac. That was a question and concern from the residents, that it was pretty dark back there at this stage. So we'll have one at the end here, and then along this path, we will have 3 lights as well. There will be no lighting at the parking lot except for security lighting. So that was a question as well.
Thank you.
And then water for the dogs? Is there a water feature?
Yes, there will be water for both the small dog and the big dog area for humans and a dog dish, so, correct.
Will there be any shade structures or cement slabs or anything?
There is a cement, this is a cement slab as you come into the complex, visiting other dog parks as well as visiting with colleagues that have dog parks in their community. The area that you go into initially tends to get the muddiest and most torn up. So this would be a larger concrete area. This first phase, due to budgeting concerns, we don't have a shade structure, but that is anticipated a future amenity that we'd like to include here.
And Jan, I remember you saying that they were gonna have, each individual owner would have their own punch code? Or is it gonna be one punch code?
There would be one punch code. So what's required for the dog park, and that was again a concern, I think we've explained it through the CIP process, and when this project came and got approved through the CIP, we were very transparent with the residents and involved them in the process. One of their main concerns was all the people that are going to be coming. So it's not just open to anyone. You will, residents and non-residents will be required to buy a dog pass, a dog park pass, and with that, you have to show that you have a dog license and all the vaccinations. Then you will get a punch code, a code for the punch pad at the dog park. So there'll be one number. If it becomes an issue, you can just change the number, and that's what we belong to, the Ankeny Dog Park, and they just send out a new number each year. So it doesn't seem to be an issue with that.
Thanks, Jan.
All right. Anything further? Is there a motion?
All right, motion to approve Council Letter 7022.
Okay, motion by McBurney,
Second.
second by Obrecht. Discussion, please vote.
This is pretty monumental, Jan.
Tell me about it. All right, that passes. And moving on to item 9.1 is the supplemental design services agreement for the dog park with parking lot project. Jan?
And at the site that we just talked about, in the CIP for this year is the demolition of the former wastewater treatment plant, and call it the North Plant at this site. And as we got into that during demolition, we've found a few obstacles in regards to additional work that needs to be done at the site. We have to change, address some alterations for water main modifications, grade changes, and removal of the rock. Since we have Bolton and Mink under contract for the design of this site, they're obviously very familiar with the site. We're just recommending doing, authorizing execution of supplemental design services agreement so they can provide the required additional work. We're proposing for $7,500 that they would do the work, and then we can address and bid out the additional work that needs to be done for the demolition of the site. Be happy to answer any questions you might have.
Okay, thanks, Jan. Questions on this?
Move to approve resolution 102-2022.
Motion by Kroll,
I'll second it.
second by McBurney. Discussion, please vote. That passes. All right. Item 9.2 is the purchase of the solid waste containers. John will answer any questions if there are.
Move approval of Council Letter 7010.
Okay, motion by Obrecht. Second by McBurney. Discussion, please vote. Okay, that passes. Item 9.3 is consider the professional services agreement for the automatic license plate detection services with Flock Group, Inc. Chief?
Mayor, members, council, I have just a very short presentation, and then I'll answer any questions that you have. I can get this open up here. Nope. There we go. Okay. So tonight we're proposing in next budget year as we went through the budget process this year, we had in there a license plate recognition camera system that we were interested in. That was approved in the budget. Bringing it forward now because we want to try to get it installed. They have a pilot period that I'll describe, and then we'll get that installed in May if we get approval, and then that would run us into the next budget year before we would be paying for those services. Initially, we were going with this Flock company for the license plate recognition. They are offering to put up 20 license plate recognition cameras in locations throughout the city. After the pilot period of 60 days, that would be reduced to 10 cameras, and that's what we're budgeted for the next year. I described this a little bit as like your free trial, and they're trying to upsell you a little bit, if you will. We told them in no uncertain terms that we're not going to 20 cameras this budget year, and they said we still want to do it because we want to show you that the data will come in, and then in the next budget years, if you can have that information available to you, and we can show how effective it is to have more cameras. So that's the theory behind them installing 20 cameras instead of the 10 that we will be moving forward with. Each camera will capture up to 2 lanes of traffic in one direction. It cannot cover an entire 4-lane road. It gets the rear of the vehicle on one side of the road. It's a proactive use system, so it runs a check against the National Crime Information Center. Or we refer to it as NCIC. You'll hear that cops talk about that a lot. It'll check each license plate real time against that database, and that information will be forwarded to patrol officers if there's a hit on that. So in other words, if a vehicle rolls through there and there's an Amber Alert on that plate that's entered into the National Crime Information Center, it will notify the officers that vehicle just went through this intersection. And then the officers hopefully will be close to that area and can find that vehicle and if needed, make a stop. The other use of the system is investigative. So you can go back and search the system for a specific vehicle or a plate. So that we see our investigation division using that more. And what will happen, and here's what happens a lot of times. So we end up with a grainy video from a business, usually up very high, that has a picture of a vehicle that was involved in, let's say, a burglary from their parking lot. Maybe a catalytic converter was cut off. Maybe a trailer was stolen from behind their business. And we end up with this grainy picture. We know what type of vehicle it is. It's a white Chevy pickup, let's say. We would be able to go back now and check the Flock system for any white Chevy pickups that came through any of our intersection cameras during that time frame and be able to screen for that, and then we would have a nice shot of their license plate. The pictures that we get, 99% of the time do not have the capability of grabbing that, or we could zoom in enough, or it's clear enough that we can see a license plate and get that data. So that's the investigative use of that as well. The data is stored by Flock for 30 days of all the vehicles that pass by that location, and then it's deleted. Any downloaded images that we would utilize for a case investigation would follow our evidence procedures from that point forward. So in other words, if we have a picture of a vehicle going through an intersection, the rear license plate of that vehicle, and that helps us with some type of case that we're working, maybe a theft case, or there's a warrant hit on that car for an Amber Alert or whatever, we would save that image in our evidence files. It would no longer be on the Flock system, it would be on our police production server. And we would follow normal evidence procedures with that. Once the case is disposed of and there's no chance for appeal or anything, that we'll follow those normal evidence procedures, and then we can dump that data out at that point. But we would hold on to that, and it would be out of that Flock system and be in our system, if that makes sense. There's 1,100 police agencies across the United States using the Flock LPR system. There's 3 metro agencies that are utilizing or proposing. So I got an update on that just today. West Des Moines is already using the system. They're the ones that told us about it. They have them around the Jordan Creek area, and they have them in some of their parks where they've been having some vandalism and car break-in issues. And they told us how well the system worked. Ankeny has approved in their budget for 13 cameras, obviously for next budget year as well. And Altoona is in the process of installing 10 camera system right now, hope to be up and running by April on that system. The hope is that it will just expand from there when other departments like us see the benefits of it, and we will have access to all those cameras as well. The LPR cameras do not include facial recognition capabilities, and they do not capture personally identifiable information. While eyewitnesses are subject to inherent human bias, LPR cameras capture wholly objective images of vehicles and license plate providing a clear and actionable investigative lead. It's estimated that over 70% of crimes are associated with a vehicle, which makes this system super valuable. The ability to capture and utilize vehicle information along with a date and time produces critical information for solving crimes. I've got a policy in place already that is CALIA compliant. CALIA does require, they have a standard on this issue, and they make sure that you hit all the points of that standard. All alerts in the Flock system must be confirmed through Westcom or mobile data computers. So in other words, if the system gives a notification that there's a Amber Alert on this vehicle, the officer will be required to either run that plate again through Westcom for an actual real-time NCIC inquiry right there. And they can also do that on their mobile data computers themselves. They don't always have to go through dispatch. They have access to the same system. But that would be required of the officers. They will not be able to just take the Flock information and say, yep, that's good enough. That's not the way it's going to work. We have to verify that information through NCIC as well. The officer would then be able, or would be required to establish reasonable suspicion or probable cause prior to making any contact with the vehicle, taking any enforcement action, or detaining the vehicle or its occupants. Any search of the LPR system data for specific license plate information will only be conducted pursuant to a criminal investigation by our policy. And only data and images associated with an incident or criminal investigation will be downloaded and saved to our production server from that system. Only UPD staff with NCIC access, there's testing and you have to get certified to be able to access Iowa and NCIC data. That will be the only people that will have access to that system as well, because it's using that information to make those alerts. Here's some examples that the company provided, and then we have one example of ourselves using the data. So they had an Ambler Alert in Atlanta, and they actually recovered the child unharmed from that incident. And they have down in Knoxville, Tennessee, they had a Silver Alert where an elderly man who has dementia drove away in a family vehicle, and this occurs often in our area as well. And the LPR cameras were able to locate that vehicle, and the officers were able to get him stopped and get him back to his family. And they have hundreds of examples of that happening across the country for these departments that are using the LPR system. Fort Worth put these cameras up in a violent crime neighborhood, and they saw a significant reduction in their shootings and violent incidents that they were having in that area. And then this one I thought was pretty interesting. In Grafton, Wisconsin, it's just north of Milwaukee is where it's at. They were experiencing, they have a large retail area. I'm guessing it's similar to like the Jordan Creek area. And they were having a lot of organized retail theft where groups of people were coming up there and going store to store and doing organized retail theft is what they call it. So they put these LPR cameras out there, and they identified 3 stolen vehicles in the first week, and they stopped those vehicles, and all 3 of those occupants, they determined all 3 of those vehicles, the occupants were planning organized retail thefts. So this is common. So what they do is when they're going to do organized retail theft, they'll go out and steal a vehicle and use that, do the thefts in that vehicle because it's very hard to trace, right? So you're not going to roll up there in your own vehicle. So that's what's nice about this system, because if that vehicle's entered as stolen, it's popping on that alert. Stolen vehicle, and then we can, the department can take action. When we first started talking to Flock about this system, they let us access the system and use it a little bit. Not that we had our own cameras, but West Des Moines had some up, and then there's obviously other agencies across the country. So we had a theft group that had come through, and they'd hit some other metro agencies as well. And we kind of figured out that this group is going around and hitting not just in Urbandale, but at other retail locations around the metro. Iowa City had the same suspects and vehicle, but they actually had a video of this vehicle, but they couldn't get the license plate again like we were talking. So they took the vehicle description from that video and uploaded it into this system, and it had a sticker in the back window of this car. Couldn't read the license plate, but you could see that it had a sticker in the back window. And I believe it was like a BMW or something, SUV. So they ran that make and model with that rear window sticker and eliminated all the other ones that didn't have rear window stickers. And Wichita, Kansas said, here's your vehicle. And this is the plate. And it was a rental vehicle from Wichita. So once they had the plate, then they ran it through the system, and it actually hit on the West Des Moines cameras over at Jordan Creek as well. And that gave them a lead to follow up on who had rented the vehicle, who has had it. No update on the case as far as making any arrests yet, but it gave them an actionable lead that they were able to follow. Okay, now we got someone that's renting a vehicle. We know what the vehicle is. We can put out the description, the plate, to all the other agencies that are looking for this type of vehicle, that, you know, it's going out there doing those things. So I thought that was pretty cool. That, I'm gonna show you a quick map of where we're proposing to put the cameras. You can see this. Where the red circle with the star is where the 10 cameras will be that we will leave after the trial period, if everything goes well. The black circles, and you can see they're kind of layered up on each other a little bit, will be where the other 10 cameras will be that will be removed after the pilot period. The actual locations, there's just another map of all 20 locations. But here's the list of the 10 that we would keep after the pilot period ended. We came up with these locations. It's a little hodgepodge. So you kind of set up a gate, or a gate around your community, if you will. So the main access roads in and out of your community, those are the ones that get you probably the best chance of catching someone coming in and out. It doesn't always catch if someone's internally doing things, right? So that's where those other cameras you saw that will be removed, they're kind of more in the internal parts to see what we get from that. But what we did was we ran our crime data for the last 3 years and figured out what areas are we having the most crimes that a vehicle may be involved in. So your car burglaries, your residential burglaries, your catalytic converter thefts, your retail thefts, those things. And that's where we kind of figured out these are probably the main routes in and out of the city for those vehicles that were involved in those incidents. And that's how we came up with the locations. Really, they're the main thoroughfares in and out of the city. With that, and I got pictures of all those locations, but you don't really need to see those. But I would, that's all I have. I can certainly answer any questions.
All right, thank you, Chief. Questions for Chief?
Well, I will say first, I know that when we first heard this, I was a little concerned, Big Brother-ish type thing. And I think the concerns that was brought forward with the deletion of the data after 30 days, all that, I think that is, my concerns have been alleviated when it comes to that. And I do think the CLIA portion of it is very good. Like again, I didn't think it would be a big issue, but you know, making sure that there are responsible people that can access the system to make sure that we are targeting certain individuals. You don't want, and I don't mean to be flippant about this, but you don't want like an officer who's just going in saying, you know, I want to track my ex through the system. So I think this is, or my kid or something. So I think having, like, I know it's somewhat joking, but that could be a very serious violation of privacy. And this is a very powerful tool. And so I think having those CLIA already having these procedures and then making sure that they're followed and and all of the officers are well trained on that system, I think is vitally important. I will be interested to see if when your 60 days is up, whether the internal in our city is worth looking at afterwards as well. I would be really interested to listen afterwards to see if we did get a lot of hits in the internal ones versus only the exterior of our city.
And our plan is to track every single case that we're able to do anything with the data out of the system so we can determine whether this is worth the money or not, quite frankly, and whether it's working the way it's supposed to, or are we spinning our wheels here and we're really not getting that much out of it.
And do you have a plan, last question then I'm done, do you have a plan to do like a year review where you will assess whether, again, the money is worth it, whether you're getting enough hits to support the system?
So if you couldn't tell from my council letter, the contract's a little mucky, all right? I'm not gonna dodge it at all. But they're trying to upsell a little bit, right? So the initial term of the contract is 12 months, right? So if we give them 30 days notice before the end of that 12 months, then we don't renew. But it's kind of like your DirecTV or any of these other places, right? If we don't give them the 30 days, then it's gonna roll for another 2 years. And if we don't want to go 2 more years, then there's a cost for us to remove the cameras. But if we give them 30 days notice before that 12-month period is up, then they will remove everything if we don't want to continue on for no cost to the city. So yes, absolutely. We are going to be doing a very stringent review of all of this prior to that 30 days coming up, so we can make a determination on whether we want to continue this or not. And obviously, it would be even sooner than that, because budget presentations for you guys for the next 2 years of this system will be coming in December and January. So we're going to get about 6 to 7 months of data that we're going to have to crunch and say, is this worth it or not? And we're going to have to make a determination then, or pretty close to then, whether or not we're going to continue with this and have it in the budget for the next couple of years.
Thank you. Thank you. Again, I think this will be a powerful tool, and I hope it's worth the money. I hope it's a good.
Everybody we've talked to that has a system, they've expanded from initially getting it. It's worked so well, they just keep expanding it. And, you know, bigger metropolitan areas like Wichita and those kinds of places, so.
Is their pricing consistent with other law enforcement agencies?
It is, you know, Motorola has a product a company that's owned by Motorola has a product, and the price per lease of camera was almost exactly the same. There was a little difference in price because they weren't talking about install. We're getting an install with this for $250 each. So what we really like about the system is that the other metro agencies are also putting it out, so it creates a system. And so if we have something just like this case example I gave you, West Des Moines was able to produce that plate. Thieves, crooks, bad people, they don't stay within the boundaries of the city of Urbandale, or in any city for that matter. They don't even know where the boundaries are at times. So, you know, for them to run up to Ankeny, and especially when you're talking about retail theft and those types of things, and fraudulent use of credit cards and those things, they're hitting all those big retail shopping areas. So Ankeny, Jordan Creek area, Altoona out there, those are going to be hot spots for those activities to happen. And having those systems in place out there will really help our investigators cut down on investigative time as well.
So talk about them wanting to upsell. How big would they think Urbandale could eventually be? Are we talking a 30, 50 camera system?
No, they were originally proposed 20. That was their original proposal to us. So I think if we got 20, they would probably leave us alone, but I'm not going to
So
that.
happens in Dallas County, or?
What's that?
So nothing happens west of the
Well,
interstate?
yeah, that's just it. You know, if you look at our crime data, and that's what we use to determine the locations, we wanted to get the most bang for our buck to start off with. And quite frankly, that crime's happening on the Polk County side, on them areas that we pulled up. We just don't have a lot of crime out on the west side of the city, so therefore we're not spending the money to put the cameras out there. Maybe if the system's really effective, we can expand it out there. $2,500 a piece a year is not a huge investment. So if it shows some good results, and we're getting good results, maybe we start putting a few of them out west as well.
And then how easy is it to move a camera later? Say, well, you know, you find out this site is triggering nothing basically for us, move it somewhere.
So we're mounting all to existing poles, and they're solar powered. So we're not hardwiring anything, so the cost is minimal. And to move a camera, they require that they move the cameras and we don't move them. And right now it's $250 to move a camera.
Okay.
So pretty reasonable, I thought. And for the work it is, it's not that big to move it, you know. So we've already kind of started doing the preliminary work on getting approval of what poles we want to use and those kinds of things. But not having to hook into power and all those things has helped us, that process be a little quicker.
I've got a question, and it's maybe a little more political than anything else, but does this run afoul of the, anything that is being pushed at the Capitol in terms of traffic cameras? I mean, that every year they try to ban, I mean, is that just for speed cameras?
That's speed cameras that the State House tries to get rid of every year.
Right.
Yeah, that's speed cameras. So we would be not issuing tickets or anything. This does not track your speed at all. It just takes a picture of the rear of the vehicle. That's it. It's a still photo.
So I got a couple questions for you, Chief. The first one being, I noticed that there's a few of them scattered along Hickman. So are those all facing the same direction, or are they, because you said it can only monitor 2 lanes of traffic.
Right. And because we are only on one side of Hickman for most of that,
was gonna be
those
my
are on
next
the north
question.
side of the road. So
Okay.
yeah, so that's going to be capturing westbound traffic on Hickman.
Got it.
Because we don't have the east side of it. We don't have the eastbound traffic. That's not in our city limits.
Okay, perfect. And then lost my second question, so. It happens.
Will you come to us with a report, or will it be our decision or their police department's decision to move, to go into year 2?
Oh, yes, that will definitely be brought to you as a budget item.
Approve
Yes.
that.
So first, step one, we got a 60-day pilot period. If this thing stinks, we can notify them and they'll pull them all out. If it's not working, it's not doing what it's supposed to do, it's just not going to happen. Maybe the solar isn't working, maybe there's going to be costs or whatever comes up, we can pull out of this after that 60-day period for no cost. Step 2 of that contract is at least 30 days before that 12-month period runs out, we have to notify them whether or not we're going to continue or not. And that will give us time to run that budgetary item and present it to you of what success we've
That'll
had.
be, I mean, if we approve our budget in March, we'll have,
Yeah, but the
that-
budget, I mean,
it'll
you guys will
align
have the
with the 30
decision
days.
you guys will have the decision to me in January.
When you
When
make
you-
that final.
yeah.
March date is just for the
March is the
certification.
certification with the state, but January, you guys make your budget decisions. So
Right.
if you guys don't want to continue on with this because the data's not there or whatever I produced wasn't impressive, and maybe we all come to the conclusion that we don't want to renew for 2 years, then we will still have more than enough time to give them that notice to pull their cameras out.
I remember what I was going to ask you. So I remember you saying, it came back to me. I remember you saying that the officer had to actually verify through the NCIC themselves. Do they need to, will that hit through NCIC be enough for them to conduct a traffic stop at that point?
Maybe.
Maybe, okay.
It depends,
Okay.
right? So a lot of times, yes, but let's say that it hits on a male subject has a warrant for his arrest, and this is the vehicle he drives. And so the vehicle drives by, boom, they get a notification, this vehicle just went by here, this guy's wanted for domestic assault causing injury. The officer rolls up on the vehicle and the only occupant's a female. She's driving the car. The officer is not going to be able to stop that car.
Okay.
Now, if it's a male driver and it looks, or at least comes close to the description, the officer's making those determinations, then you have reasonable suspicion to stop the car and investigate further. Is this the guy that's on it on the warrant? But if there's only a female in the car, there's not enough there. The officer would have to have something else to garner reasonable suspicion or probable cause to stop that vehicle. So a lot of times, yes, but not always.
Yeah, I just think about through the CPA class, Detective Vestal gave us the catalytic converter case that he had, and I'm sure this would have been extremely helpful to be able to read the license plate, but, you know, it happened to be a case where the folks that were on the title were completely different than the folks that actually owned a vehicle at the time.
Right.
So I was just curious if that was enough to be able to initiate, so. all right.
Not always, right?
Not
So,
always,
Yep,
okay.
yep, it's all case by case, and the officer's got to make that determination and something that will hold up in court.
Gotcha, okay, thank you.
I guess I had a follow-up on workload. I mean, is this going to increase or decrease the officer's workload?
I think it's going to increase the workload, but hopefully lower the crime rate. So if you have people that are coming into your city with stolen vehicles that are doing retail theft, it would be nice to catch them with the stolen vehicle before they go into Target and use a forged credit card that we have to go and take a report on later. You know, so yes, I think it will increase our workload for the patrol officers a little bit. I think it will decrease the workload for investigations because it will speed up their investigations if they get that actionable lead. They don't have to keep trying to find video or trying to figure out what the car is. If they get that plate right away and can say, yep, there's my vehicle right there, and here's the registered owner, and they matched it. Now they pull up the registered owner's DL picture, and there's the video of the person with the credit card at Target, same person. I mean, you can see where it could go pretty quickly, but.
And I guess defining success, is it that we find 10 cases a month through this system, 50 cases a month through the system? Is there a definition of success yet?
I think that's for all of us to determine, quite frankly. Obviously, we give you our recommendation of what we think, if it's successful enough to warrant the spending of $25,000, right? So what is that threshold? And then obviously I present that to you guys, and then you make the final determination whether it's worth it.
It just, because in a year, if all of a sudden an emotional case happens and it's caught by this system, but that's the only one, I wouldn't want it to, you know, I didn't know if we could define success ahead of time.
Right, so you solve one Amber Alert for $25,000. I think anybody in this room would pay $25,000 to safely recover a child that was really in danger. $25,000 is a drop in the bucket, and we'd all agree to that. So yes, I think there will be the gravity of the cases that we solve with this, and then the volume as well, like how many, you know, of your just your regular thefts or your stolen vehicle type situation. So.
One other question. Is there an expense for us to access NCIC?
No, not through the system. That was all through them. Yep.
Good discussion. Any other questions or comments?
Thank you.
All right, thank you, Chief.
Move resolution 088-2022.
Motion by
Second.
Blake, second by Carberry and Montgomery. Discussion, please vote. Okay, that item passes. Moving on then to item 9.4, it's the software as a service agreement with Power DMS for Fire Department. Chief, I'll turn it over to you.
Yeah, Mayor, members of the council, what we have for you tonight is a compliance and policy management software system. As part of our accreditation efforts, it was identified that we don't do a really good job of making sure that all the changes in policies and SOPs are properly acknowledged and trained on those changes. So this is a platform that will allow us to do that. So all of our employees will be able to access that anywhere they have internet connection, so they don't have to be on the city system where it is today. We have a shared drive, and we have issues with addition control, if you will, where we're going through a process where it is being updated, and sometimes you add your comments and you add your comments, and we don't have the most current one posted. This will allow us to do that and meet some accreditation guidelines. It also provides us to allow training on those when we send them out, so that the person acknowledges that they took the test of the changes and they signed for the changes. That's all part of this package. It's a 3-year contract, starts out the first year with a 50% reduction of $5,800, and then year 2 is $7,400, and year 3 is $9,900. Be happy to answer any questions if you have any.
All right, thanks, Chief. Any questions for the Chief?
Move approval of council letter 7018.
Motion by Obrecht,
Second.
second by Kroll. Discussion, please vote. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, that passes. Okay. Item 9.5 is to consider the equipment purchase for 2 Type 1 ambulances, Chief.
Yes, sir. So before you tonight is a request for 2 Type 1 ambulances. This was a normal replacement of 2 Type 3 ambulances from the Equipment Replacement Fund in the amount of $594,000. That does include a $7,600 discount for a prepayment at time of order. Even with that, we're 23.8%, 24% over the planned budget, and I think that's just a standard of where we're at in the times. We are, and I know this is new to some of y'all, so you haven't been on the council that long, but we are purchasing these through, or proposing purchase through the Houston-Galveston Area Council, which is a cooperative purchase process where this organization does pre-bids and gets bids from fire trucks, ambulances, all sorts of different equipment. And we've purchased our last 2 ambulances and our last 3 fire apparatus that way. And we estimate savings anywhere from $40,000 to $60,000 in doing it this way, plus less staff time that we don't have to prepare our own bids and specifications to do that. Just to kind of give you an idea quickly of what a difference is between a type 1 and a type 3 ambulance. Today, we utilize type 3, and the differences is what you see in the cab area. This would be what we consider a van-type ambulance, and a type 1 is a pickup truck-type ambulance. The difference is the gross vehicle weight that a type 1 can carry is greater than a type 3. So our type 3s for some time have been at maximum weight capacity. We feel that in the front end as you're driving and it's bouncing and not doing as well. So the recommendation is to go to a type 3. I'd be happy to answer any questions that you might have.
So just to be clear, and I may have missed this is to replace the type 3s. These won't be in addition to. So we're not increasing the fleet, we're just replacing.
That's correct. It's a replacement of 2 vehicles that are currently type 3s with 2 new type 1s. We have a fleet of 4 ambulances that we have at this time. So this is just replacement of 2, then you'll have another 2 to replace in another 5 years.
And with a low trade-in value, is it worth holding on to an old one?
Extremely low trade-in value. So this 594 includes trade-in of the 2 existing vehicles.
But is it worth holding on to one of them for any reason, since there's such a low trade-in value?
I don't think so. We have 3 first-out units that are in service, and with 4, we have 1 that's in reserve. So what'll happen when we get these 2 new ones, one will go to the busiest station, one will go to the second busiest station, and one of those will then become a reserve, and the third one remaining at station 43 at this time. Then those 2 get replaced, and we'll rotate them into the busiest stations as well as to get the most maximum return on our money on that.
All right. Any other questions?
Move approval of council letter 7006.
Okay, motion by McBurney,
Seconded.
second by Kroll. Discussion, please vote.
Chief, I guess I should have said this before, but I expect a birth announcement.
What's that?
I said I expect a birth announcement.
Okay, yeah, we'll see if we can up Joaquin one.
Exactly. All right, that passes.
Maybe a baby shower, I don't know.
Bring a bottle of champagne.
Thank you. I appreciate that, Jerry.
You must have missed that discussion.
I must have.
All right, item 9.6 is to consider the community recreation complex. Jan?
Mr. Mayor, members of the council, Bridget, you had mentioned monumental project of the dog park. This one might outdo it. We've certainly been talking about this and going through the process for many years. And the Parks and Recreation Master Planning has been pretty much the past 16 years. We've discussed some type of recreation complex or facility at the regional park. For years, we've talked about envisioned potential of outdoor aquatic center or nature center, different amenities that were in the CIP. And to determine what amenity or complex or facility could be considered or proceeded with, staff worked with a committee comprised of 2 commission members, 2 council members, the mayor, and some city staff to assess what the recreation complex could include. And through that process, we also hired a consultant to determine probable cost estimates for different recreation, rec complex, indoor aquatics, outdoor complex, or combined facility. The committee also recommended that the community be surveyed to determine what is the most supported type of facility or complex at that site. So the survey was completed in January by Seltzer and Associates. And that information was very helpful in determining and developing the recommendation that we'll present tonight. And since then, since the survey was completed, we've been working with Seltzer and Company and also comparing the data from other planning documents and our 2018 Parks Recreation Community Space Master Plan as well. So one of the big key findings, or some of the big key findings from that survey, was 77%, or 2 out of 3 Urbandale active registered voters said a building a complex was a good idea. And that's showing some significantly strong, that's a significantly strong support number. And I believe it's taken that the community is ready for a complex. 54% said that they would definitely vote to support a complex if it were on the ballot. And 60% also said that potential property tax increase, and we shared the value of the tax impact of $80 to $120 was the different cost ranges for the different facilities that we had been considering at that time. And that was the support. And 60% support for tax increase is important, but I think we believe a more narrowed survey question, and we'll get to the recommendation for a second survey, but a more narrowed survey question would help determine the cost range of what the community would support in order to pass a bond referendum, which again, as you know, requires 60% approval. So the community feedback, our 2018 Parks Recreation Community Open Space Master Plan supports it as well, is that the community supports both a recreation complex and an indoor pool, where the Seltzer survey showed that survey participants would support a rec complex at 61% and indoor aquatic complex at 59%. And we have talked a bit before, and as you are fully aware, as you go through all your budgeting processes, that the city has fiscal limitations of how much we can bond for. And as we worked with the firm to prepare the cost estimates for different type of facilities, we realized that a combined recreation aquatics complex would exceed our bonding capacity. So that brings a decision needs to be made then of what type of facility that we would proceed with to a bond referendum. And again, where we talked about the support from the community as a recreation complex and an indoor aquatics. So Seltzer survey identified gymnasiums and fitness areas as the highest valued components at 61% of a new complex. And the master plan, again, as we talked about, identified programming space, gym, senior programming areas as high need components for future recreation. And as you can see on this slide here, these are some of the components that we have outlined of potential that could be within the complex, a recreation complex. And also then the question of, for an indoor complex, and the Seltzer survey identified indoor aquatic area as the second highest valued components for a new complex. And in an indoor aquatic, certainly would be swimming, swim lessons, life safety, indoor spray ground, aquatic programming, and some meeting space. So as we took all these considerations and key considerations were evaluated, we looked at this crucial decision and what considerations are complex that we constructed. We last over 30 years. Obviously, the pool that we had lasted over 45 years. And also it's important to consider current but also future trends. This isn't a building for the next 5 years. What are the current trends and also what are the future trends? And certainly with all of our programs that we do, as well as obviously with a significant investment as this, we need to consider what is the greatest impact, what would provide the greatest impact to the community and meet the needs of the highest number of people. And there's been a change in sports and recreation over the past 5 to 10 years. The fastest growing trends are important to consider, and they include pickleball, mixed martial arts, senior fitness, esports, and other programmings. This has fueled a need for more gym space, flexible programming space, and sports field. So taking all these considerations and needing to make a decision, a recommendation, staff is recommending to approve a recreation complex to proceed to a bond referendum, and also recommending to conduct a second survey. We feel it's extremely important to narrow down the amenity preferences prior to hiring a firm to design the conceptual design, and then to determine the most supported fiscal range. So is it 43 million? Is it 30 million? What would the community support and what range? Now, we recognize certainly that aquatics are a valued component in our community and should continue to be addressed. And the city will continue to focus on partnerships and additional opportunities to provide aquatic programming if our recommendation for a rec complex is supported. And our partnerships with Clive Aquatic Center is extremely successful this past year. Goldfish Swim School as well for swim lessons, and we just met with them last week about continued other opportunities for programming. and the YMCA. We know that Waukee School District is constructing a $33 million aquatic facility within approximately 3 miles of the Walnut Creek Regional Park, which is the site for the new facility. And we certainly don't know or are not in charge or responsible for their programming, but we do understand that they're building a 4-lane leisure pool at that site, which would include swim lessons and other programming. And the Capital Improvements Program also proposes a new aquatic spray ground at Lions Park, and also as part of a proposed rec complex at the regional park would be a splash pad as well. So I wanted to share, if it again was approved tonight, I want to mention that at the March 9th Parks and Recreation Commission meeting, the commission did unanimously approve this recommendation, and obviously before you tonight. And I just wanted to briefly show you a proposed timeline. As we know, timelines can change and adjust, but this is where we're at right now, is a next agenda item. Again, if this is approved, that we'd recommend doing a second survey. That is proposed right now to happen in April. In May, we'd get those survey results back. We'd also get together an RFP to hire a firm for the designing the project and start the initial preparation for the bond referendum. In June, we'd enter that contract and hire that firm. Then June through August, they'd start that preliminary design plan and get their marketing materials together for the bond referendum and provide us cost estimates for construction and operations. So this fall, approximately in October, where you as a council could approve the bond referendum question, and if the timing is right, to proceed with the bond referendum. November through December, we look to finalize the public campaign, and we certainly would take recommendation from this firm and consultant if you start those public forums or not. November, December might not be the best time with holidays and so forth, but January through March then would be our full court press of community campaign with forums, charrettes, promotional videos, public meetings, and so forth. And right now, proposed March 2023 bond referendum. Again, that certainly all of those would be dependent on your recommendations and final decisions. So I'd be happy to answer any questions you might have.
All right. Thank you, Jan. Any questions for Jan on this?
So if we move forward on this, what's kind of the cost estimate of from here to bond referendum? I see about $200,000 worth of services we're looking at in tonight's agenda. What else is on there that might need some future budgetary concerns?
The big two, one would be the second survey, and then the design firm to prepare that information. We wouldn't know what that cost would be. We did anticipate, as you had mentioned, about $200,000 in regards to preparing for that bond referendum of how much information do you need to make sure we are extremely transparent. We provide enough information for the public to be able to make an educated decision in regards to what impact on their taxes, what it will look like, what are those amenities going to be, so then they know if that's something that they want to support or not. So as the things that are listed here, we anticipate it's approximately that much. And through the CIP process and the pool budget, we did anticipate that and do have that funding.
And kind of when in the process are you expecting to have an operational budgetary item too of here's how much it would take to operate a rec complex if it was built?
We have some very preliminary numbers. We have some preliminary numbers. The firm that we use to prepare the cost estimates for the 4 amenities and narrow it down to 2 also needed to prepare operational costs because that is required for our survey. When we say to the community, if you decide on this one, this is your tax impact. It's not just the capital. We want to be extremely fair of saying this is operational. You don't build a facility without operating. So we want to be very upfront of saying this is what it will cost you. And that number will include capital as well as operational. And we're working closely with Nikki, and she's already been providing that information.
Well, this is a moment for me, because I mean, this is really what this aquatics issue, I might still be sitting here even if it weren't for the aquatics issue, but that got me really engaged with the city. I'm a little bit sad that we are not abandoning, that's way too intense of a word, but I think we've done a really good job in working through the changing in needs and consulting with other communities. I mean, I'm still at the end of the day a little bit sad that we're not going to have an aquatic center there, but I'm excited about the prospect of this community recreation complex and the splash pad or spray ground that would be there as well. I mean, I do think that's where the future is, and I hope that we'll be able to align ourselves well with the Waukee Schools facility and maybe develop some relationships there as we have with other entities. But yeah, this is a huge, I mean, I've been pushing to just answer the question of up or down, yes or no for, I don't know, 8, 9, 10 years. So this is getting us to that point. So I appreciate all of the work you've put in over, 16 years on this particular issue, maybe a few years less than the dog park, maybe more, I don't know. But yeah, this is a big deal. But I have to just say, I have a little bit of sadness about the aquatics piece, but it's really understandable, I think, in the big picture.
And you make a good point, and I failed to mention, and if there's the public that are listening or will be listening, but through the survey as well as the master plan, where in 2006 was the trends of an outdoor aquatic center, and it clearly showed in the survey that residents, the outdoor aquatics is not as high of a need. So we'd love to do both and build a rec complex with indoor pool, and unfortunately that's not something within our capacity.
I do think we are looking at something that's more enduring and will really stand the test of time overall, so no matter where we end up finally on this. So.
And our goal certainly, as you as a council and previous councils, one of the biggest recommendations to us was how can we partner and how can we work together with other communities, and we'll continue to do that. Our biggest goal through this, and as we look at every community that through the metro are building new things and new amenities, is how can we complement each other and not compete? And we certainly will be looking at as we go forward of what does that look like, instead of repeating what others are doing and competing. We certainly are looking forward to that.
And certainly in our discussion, I'm sorry, didn't mean to interrupt, but I just, AJ and I had a meeting recently with Clive, and, just this very discussion came up, and they were obviously very interested in what we were doing, and are from their perspective, very appreciative of our collaboration and our partnership that helps them support their aquatic center. So.
Well, and I was going to ask, will we know enough about what Waukee is doing to include any sort of partnership language in the survey, or does that detract from the purpose of the survey?
I guess I'd involve Ann Seltzer with that question, but we had talked it internally with staff, and until we know specifically of what we will have included, it's a little difficult. If I'm in another community's shoes of we don't know what we're building yet, I think very strong opportunities for that discussion once we have the survey approved and start working on design and get community input. Then we can have those discussions with them as we go to a bond referendum of this is what's proposed, this will be the cost, what type of partnerships can we go? And I definitely would want that to be part of those charrettes and community input of these are the opportunities for partnerships and working together to use some of their facilities and reciprocating with ours, and what can we do to benefit all of our residents.
Thank you.
I think if you throw the word Waukee into a survey, it would totally flip out half of Urbandale.
Well, unless you threw in Johnston and
Yeah.
Clive and
Right.
all the others.
Right, yeah.
But I paid particular attention as a Waukee School resident and Urbandale resident to the discussions, and the last real big public discussion that they had when the school board approved it. I mean, they don't want to commit to anything until they know what their their swim team, you know, really needs, their needs are. I mean, I imagine, you know, daytime use, summer use will be available for the community, but yeah, they were very unwilling to commit to the community that they would be able to offer, you know, anything extra. But you know that, you know, ultimately they will, because they'll want to program it and make money wherever they can, so.
Okay. Anything further?
Move council letter 7013.
Motion by Blake. Second by McBurney. Discussion, please vote. Okay, that passes. Then moving on then to item 9.7, that's to consider the professional services agreement for the recreational complex project. Dan.
That was vaguely emotional. Thank you. for the approval. So with that approval, we have a recommendation I have too many letters here tonight. Recommendation for professional services agreement to do a second survey with the community. The first survey, the main focus was in regards to essentially water or no water and helping determine the recommendation of what basic type of facility would be move forward with. The second survey is extremely important. As I mentioned earlier, one, it's going to determine the cost threshold of what the community is willing to support. Again, at what level, and if it's $30 million, is it $43 million? And we will then, through that survey, also provide that information that I just mentioned, as well as the tax impact and so forth. So certainly want to include that, as well as to determine what amenities would be included, because we have the basic outline of the walking track and the gyms and the indoor playground and senior programming and so forth. But now is to narrow down a little bit more with the community through this survey. Do you want 2 regular gyms and a multi-purpose? Do you want turf? Do you want specific senior programming? How big do you want the splash pad? Those type of questions that we can start narrowing down, which will be crucial as then we hire the firm to start designing that and putting the preliminary designs together. So then we have that initial drawing as we go forward to the community forums and public forums. So then with that information, the community forums, we can get even more specific to get that final design in order to go to a bond referendum. So this is a pretty important step in that process. So we're recommending the community or the professional services agreement with Seltzer and Associates, and she will take similar to the first survey, take a cross-section of Urbandale voters. There'll be telephone interviews, at least 500 people will be interviewed. The plan right now is for an April interview period. We're preparing information for Ms. Seltzer leading up to this meeting and in preparation for this. So she will have that information and be able to prepare and move forward. As we know from the first survey, it was pretty flawless. Once she got those questions back to us, we got them approved. It was a pretty quick process. So she's extremely good at what she does and well respected. And one of the things also that we talked to Ann about, and I just wanted to share, is this is an opportunity for us to also, for lack of a better word, educate the community of what we give them a background of what we will continue to offer, because there have been questions, and I've heard from seniors in particular, of the concern if we're going to close a senior center. So this survey will provide the opportunity, and as we move forward as well, to be very clear of there's no intention of closing the senior center. What we provide at the new facility will complement what we're currently doing. So that will be clear, as well as the opportunity to share with the community that there is plans in the CIP for 2023 for a splash pad at Lions Park. So those type of initial comments as we go into the survey of the community as well. So with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions you might have.
Yeah, I think you bring up some of my concerns too, Jen. I think, unlike the first survey, I think This one is going to be a little more nuanced as far as how the questions are presented and how the respondents take those and respond to them. So,
Absolutely.
but,
And certainly asking again of, would you vote for this? That's ultimately, we're interviewing registered voters because that's our ultimate goal here, is to pass a bond referendum on a facility that the community will support.
all right. Any other questions or comments for Dan on this? Is there a motion?
Motion to approve Council Letter 7024.
Motion by McBurney. Second by Blake. Discussion, please vote. Okay, thank you. That passes. Item 9.8 is consider the architectural services agreement for the facility master plan. Jan?
Yeah, before you tonight is a request for authorized execution of architectural services agreement with OPN Architects. In 2013, we had a master plan completed for preventative maintenance plans. We evaluated all the city buildings in regards to the space needs and uses and maintenance needs. So we're looking to update that. And proposed is the visual review and inspection of exterior and interior building components at 10 buildings and 3 restroom shelters, and also a facility assessment that would provide a guide for short, midterm, and long-term equipment component and replacement recommendations, and also space and programming needs assessment and a final master plan. So this, as the 2013 plan did, will prepare us a multi-year vision and serve as a roadmap, ongoing evolution and enhancements of our city facilities. Obviously, we need to maintain what we have and keep on top of the maintenance, so it's being cost effective and we can be as efficient as we can with our facilities. So we sent out the information to 15 architectural firms. 5 of them returned information. Staff reviewed the applications, and based on similar or based on the information of those firms, they provided their experience with projects of a similar nature, the size and complexity, the qualifications of the design firm, their ability to fit within the project schedule. So we had 5 staff reviewed those recommendations and those applications, and are recommending OPN Architects to do this project for us and to update our master plan. Be happy to answer any questions you might have.
All right.
What's not being included in this? So there's 10 buildings and 3 restroom shelters. That's not all we have. So what's
Correct.
not in this?
Correct. And Dick Lilly might be on the line, that he might be able to answer more specifically. I've been talking a lot, maybe he dropped out already. Are you there, Dick?
The recently constructed, yes, I'm here. The recently constructed buildings are not included. So we have 3 of those that are not being included.
Okay.
And Mr. Lilly is our facility supervisor and oversees all our facilities within the city.
All right. Any other questions, comments?
Move Council Letter 7015.
Okay, motion by Blake. Second by McBurney. Discussion, please vote. All right, that passes. Item 9.9 is consider the architectural services agreement for the Parks Maintenance Facility repurposing. Jan.
I have to admit, in 24 years with the city, I've never done this many projects.
I was going to say, you're spending a lot of money tonight here.
This is a monumental night. So before you tonight is request for architectural service agreement with Ethos Design Group for the design for the repurposing of the Parks Maintenance Facility project. In As you know, in 2021, November of 2021, the parks operations moved to our new beautiful Parks and Public Works facility, so that facility was vacated. We did in 2021 have a feasibility study done to determine, is it structurally sound enough to repurpose? And we did find out that it is structurally sound, that it could accommodate remodeling. So that brought us to this stage in regards to repurposing this facility. The area is located here, so this is our parks maintenance facility, 2 garage bays and internal offices. This is the, right now, the Employee Wellness Center, and this is the site we're talking about within the city complex. I do want to mention that this area and much of Walker Johnson was purchased with land water conservation funds, so there is restriction on use. So this site right here has to be used for recreation purposes. So we have, it's amazing once parks left this, how many different groups and organizations internally and externally asked about what could be done here. It is required to maintain and retain recreation purposes. So proposed is the repurposing of this park maintenance building. Currently, there's building consists of 2 shop areas, the break room, private office, and 4 cubicles. The intention would be to convert the existing break room office areas into an area that of private offices, conference space, open office, break area, and reception area. And then the 2 shop areas could be converted to programmable space at a later phase. And this phase, the architect would provide just preliminary drawings. The first phase in regards to converting this would be through construction drawings and through construction bids. Possible uses for these 2 bay shop areas could be pickleball exercise areas, sports simulators. There's a lot of ideas. Oh, we always have a lot of ideas in Parks and Recreation, what we could do. In the outdoor space, where the bullpen area could be converted into programmable space again at a later phase. And this could be a splash pad, mini golf, other youth and adult programming. Some other ideas we have would be like for birthday parties, picnic area, shaded areas, so you could have indoor activities and outdoor activities. And we had, again, sent this out to 15 firms. 5 firms submitted proposals, and similar to the earlier project, that they were the initial phase, we reviewed their submittals. Then in this case, we brought in 4 of those firms and did interviews, in-person interviews. 5 staff within the Parks, Recreation, and Facilities Department were part of those interviews. And again, based on their experience, this type of project, ability to meet the schedule, the professionalism of their presentation, as well as their application, we are recommending Ethos Design Group of Ankeny to complete this project for us. Be happy to answer any questions you might have.
So the first intention would be to move the Parks and Rec offices from City Hall to the office portion of the building.
That is one of the intentions, yes.
Okay.
Or the,
And then I guess, AJ, what would your repurposing intent be if we were to move the parks? I know we're tight on space here.
Right.
What would be your vision for that space?
Well, after we had a celebration that Jan had moved out.
Of course.
I expect a big party.
Yeah, no.
There's the birth announcement.
The intention that we had was to move the finance operations over there. Right now, they're scattered in the administrative wing, and we thought to accumulate them over there with some open space as well. So that was our initial thought at this point in time.
What's our time frame on this?
What was that?
What's the time frame?
The time frame, we would have, the design group would be preparing the information. Ethos actually could have it done by August or September. Since we anticipate this would be CIP funding, we would need to go through that process of January, unless there's other discussions that occur at a council lunch and learn coming up.
Sorry.
But the anticipated would be 2023 construction.
We have a council lunch and learn coming up.
We haven't talked about that, but no, that's, no, this
You
is,
two just need to switch seats tonight.
no,
or-
yeah, I missed one meeting and all these things happen. There could be a future lunch and learn because again, the progress of the design and looking at how the opportunities may present themselves for funding. You've heard various reports tonight about, we're 12, 14, 15, 18 months out on supply materials, those type of things. So yeah, that's one of the things that we'd look at if there's an opportunity to bring something back. If we have a consensus internally is that this is exactly what's going to meet our needs currently into the future, that's going to really be beyond the CIP process. If it's possible to bring it to you forward in advance, that we would.
What do you think is going to be the future of the house? I mean, or is that part of?
That, we would take it down. It's built in the 50s, structurally isn't very sound, and anticipate that area to be a parking lot.
Okay. Very beautiful parking lot, I'm sure.
Yeah, or it could be on one of the outdoor amenities that people could see along 86th Street as well. That's what the design firm would make recommendations on.
Okay.
Well, I will move approval of Council Letter 7009.
Motion by Carberry Montgomery,
Second.
second by Kroll. Discussion, please vote. That passes. Item 9.10 is consider the purchase for the 2022 E-Transit cargo van. Jan?
Last but not least tonight, at your budget meeting in January of 2022, we had discussions in regard to a recommendation for a van to expand our recreation programming and services to the community and be able to do that by purchasing a van. And the recommendation is to purchase an electric van. So we have some, our fleet maintenance manager got bids for this, and Dewey Ford in the amount of $55,370. It would be the low bid for this project. This van would be for 2 passengers and would have the fully electric, the high roof, extended body, and 2 passenger capacity. It'd be used for city services, parks and recreation, and not just for youth programs at parks, but certainly if we have party in the park or other opportunities. And look for partnering at the park, such as with the school district when they go to the parks, that they are serving their meals for kids and things like that. So certainly we'll be, or with the library to the storybook, story time and things like that. So this would be, again, 100% electric vehicle, our first with the city. And we also would look to wrap the vehicle to make it fun and recognizable, and also have an opportunity then to, for the vehicle to be electric. So we internally had talked, and these are just 2 ideas of, or 2 examples of what other communities are done. And internally we had come up with a lot of different ideas for naming it, but I think ultimately making it simple and just calling it mobile rec, let the fun begin, and then highlighting with the wrap of the electric, emphasis of the electric, and being educate the community on that as well. So be happy to answer any questions you might have. The biggest question we have, you might ask as well, is how quickly can we get it? Like with most things, it's extremely difficult, and we're looking 8 to 12 months. Hopefully less, but
So not this summer?
not this summer. But we do, internally, we have the older van that we still hope to be able to provide some mobile rec programming with the vehicles that we do have.
Well, that's good.
And I find this is an electric moment for the history of our community. And I hope it sparks lots of fun times.
Monumental.
Working on that all day.
I just found, yes, all day. But no, it's a very exciting moment. I'm happy to vote for this. It's great.
It's a bolt ahead, right? All right. Is that a motion then, Matt?
Yes. Motion for
All your puns?
Council Letter 7011.
I'll second it, and I just want to confirm, we don't need any additional infrastructure for this, right? We can use what we already have for plugging the van in at night.
We will, by the time we get this, we will have that
We'll be all set up
capacity.
to go. Got it.
All right, so motion by Blake, second by McBurney. Any further discussion? All right, please vote. Are you amped up for this too?
Did we actually wear you out, Jan? But I don't think we've ever seen you worn out. So did we actually wear you out?
Amazing. Monumental is the word of the night. Thank you.
All right,
all
thank you
much.
very much, Jan, for everything. That truly is. It not, obviously the Parks and Rec portions of this, but everything tonight, we have obviously some high dollar things, but also things that I think are very productive for our community. So thank you, everybody, for what we got accomplished tonight. All right, Mayor and Council items. Adam.
Yeah, I just was gonna echo that I don't think Bridget and I have been here for Blake for a meeting that has had this many things that aren't planning and development items, but are other actions and other items by the rest of the staff. So, got a lot going on in the city and it's fun to see.
Yep, absolutely.
On that note, I'm seeing the senior center rec classes being advertised and wishing I was like older. So thank you. Keep doing a great job. I've still got some time in.
Bridget?
According to my
Bridget,
kids,
though.
I would be pretty much eligible with the way they do their new math. I just wanted, I was very excited and somewhat sad at the same time to see Chief Lyon take a new position in Iowa City. And I was just wondering if you or the chief could give a high-level plan for replacement.
Yes, so he's through the end of the next week, and then he'll be moving on to start his position in Iowa City on the floor. Scott was our accreditation manager, so kind of left us scrambling to take care of some of that. We've reached out to find someone to help us with that process in the interim, and that's Chief Don Cox, who's retired out of West Des Moines.
Oh.
He's going to be able to help us with that.
Good.
Initially, when he first gave us his resignation, let's move forward and get this position filled as quickly as we possibly can. Then we found that we're not going to be able to submit our paperwork in March like we had anticipated and won't be able to go in until probably September. So we're looking at an accreditation hearing of March of next year, March of 2023. So since that has slowed down, I'm not in a big hurry to fill his position. I want to fill it as quick as I can, but HR wanted to take the time to look, make sure that we had the rank structure the way that it should be, that we've grown, and we actually grew with one thing in mind, the way we used to be as opposed to where we were going to be in the future. We're going to work with HR and take a little bit of time, make sure we have all of our assignments and responsibilities properly laid out, and then we will go for the fill that.
So when do you estimate that will be, or you don't?
The next 2 to 3 months.
Okay, but it sounds like this, you're gonna contract with someone to help us through
Yeah,
that
so
process.
We have to have a program manager to move forward in the process. So I'm scheduled to go to that training in May of this year in North Carolina. And that'll keep us moving forward. And with Chief Cox's expertise, I think we'll be able to, other than the delay of 3 or 4 months, we'll be able to pick up where we need to go. So we're in good position from that standpoint to go to the hearings in March.
Well, great, I'm glad it's all working out, but it's a loss for our community, gain for my former community, I think, so.
Absolutely. That's the problem with hiring
Yeah.
quality people. Everybody else wants to get.
Yeah. We'll give him our best, please.
Thank you.
Just a quick update. I had Bravo, our quarterly meeting last week. They're doing some strategic planning, some scoping of what they want because the pandemic was so detrimental to the arts and culture in our community. They are trying to kind of reconfigure and see how they want to move forward. They also said that from last year, they're down about $1 million in what they are able to give out, but they are still going to look at trying to make sure that anybody that applies still has some kind of funding, but not to the same level. So that's just kind of briefly on Bravo. And then I have to echo what Adam said. This is like since I got on, this is a culmination of years of work that I, even in my short time, and I know I was gone, but so this is incredible. So thank you to Parks and Rec, Jan, and all the rest of the staff that has worked on this, but this is excellent, excellent stuff. So thank you.
Thanks, man. Guy in the end.
Yeah, in the end, yes. Save the best for last. So with the Grow Solar program, we actually extended the RFP by an additional week, which is why we don't have our results back yet. So that ends on the 24th. So by next council meeting, hopefully we'll have a little bit more information on who was selected and get some dates out there, because I know like Adam had indicated he's interested in some of those dates. So we'll make sure we get them out there as quickly as possible. Yeah. And then, yeah, just echoing, I think it's awesome. I know one of the things I was very adamant about was the jump into the next century. And here we are getting our first electric vehicle, and it's awesome. So appreciate all the work you guys have done.
Thanks, Larry. We had the SDBG funding subcommittee meeting today for the MPO. Just want to report on that and made the recommendations for the funding for the fiscal year 26. And just, we were partnering with Clive and the DOT on funding for the Hickman interchange and continuing on that. And that's really, we didn't have an Urbandale dedicated project in the consideration for this year, but that project did get, the committee recommended, and still has to go to Executive Committee and full Policy Committee, but did recommend $1 million for that project. So I'm pleased to see that. And during the committee meeting today, there was a lot of recognition for the fact that that's truly a regional project and needs to get done. And so I was pleased to see the funding for that. So again, we're working very well with Clive and the DOT on not only that part of it, also as we get to 128th Street, obviously, and some of the work there. So that's what I have to report on that. I don't have anything else, I don't think, further, so that's for a motion.
Legislative updates.
Preferably good ones.
Well, then we're done. The sales tax issue seems to have disappeared to a certain extent. It still can be brought up, but it's not as ominous as it was when it first appeared on the horizon. As we talked before the meeting, we have other concerns about the building code related issues. That seems to have stalled a little bit, but as Councilmember Blake and I were speaking, it's tied up in the governor's proposal for a number of other items. So we suspect that will move forward a little bit, and that would create more of a uniform building code application throughout the state. Other than that, there is other things out there, but those are the ones that are probably the most prominent that affect cities. Again, I was more pleased when the sales tax issue somewhat disappeared, and keeping my fingers crossed that will stay away.
Thank you.
All right, anything else for the good of the order? Not, is there a motion to adjourn? Is there a second? Second. All in favor?
Aye.
We are adjourned. Thank you, everyone.